back to the soils. It's nice and fresh down here, I might add.
Yeah.
Someone was asking, well, how deep do the roots go and why do they go that deep? Enrique Toso was saying, well, he knows that he's seen sites here, and I'm sure he can see this over when we go later this afternoon. I think we'll see an area where you can see how there's a cross section of the soil. You'll be able to see how deep the roots can go. And along the Rio Mendoza, I tied off onto an end post, like one of these end posts here, and then climbed down with a rock pick so I could see how deep the roots in one of these old Malbec vineyards went, and I measured over 50 feet and still find roots. Enrique says they go down 16 meters, well that's even more. I've never seen that here, but then I've not explored along the Barrancas as he has. You can see why they can, because the soil is very open. Only this upper 3/4 of a meter is a bit hard packed soil, and you don't see as much rock here. Now this will change as you move to the front of the property. There'll be more rock. So this layer we have to keep open. We'll break that with a tooth from time to time because it's very important that we get oxygen into the soil. But once the roots get below this surface of sand and clays, and it's mostly sand and very light clay, so it's a very light soil, you get into the alluvial rock. And initially it's small, and then of course as you go deeper, the rock becomes bigger. And the roots can very easily explore that. That's why in some regions you'll see that it takes a long time to establish a high quality vineyard. Here we would estimate that it would take anywhere between 8 to 10 years before we consider a vineyard mature for the high-end programs. And that would be similar to what the Bordelais would say, that they need 10 years before they would use it in their top wines. But in other regions that have a different soil structure, actually the vines grow more readily. It takes longer to establish a vine here, basically, so there's more cost in getting a vineyard to go. And you have to irrigate, if not every day, every other day to keep it alive, a young vine alive, until it can get its roots down deep. The advantage in the wine, of course, is when the roots are deep, it can explore many layers, like a layer cake of soils. And that gives more complexity to the fruit, but also gives the vine more stability. Like everywhere, in this area no exception, the weather on days where we have a period of heat, the vines will suffer unless they can get water. So deep roots help stabilize the vines against the vagrancies of Mother Nature. And that's why over time, this well-established or even 100-year-old vines, we don't really have a mechanism very efficient to see or explore root depth at that kind of depth. But what we can do is we can dig a pit like this, and we can see here in the profile, and we're not in the vine row, but if we were, you would be able to see the roots peeking out, and you can measure the diameter of the roots and whether they're all bunched up in one place or whether or not they're exploring freely the soil profile. So this is, you can see how beautifully loose this is. Imagine if you're a root, all you're looking for is nutrients, and because nutrients are sparse, they keep looking, they go deeper, and as there's more water, the deeper you go, they drive for the bottom. They keep going and going and going until they run out of oxygen. So that's why it's very important that we keep this top surface alive and open so the oxygen can exchange. And this stays open down here. And then it makes for easy exploration. The best vineyards are always where you see the roots are free to explore. And when you get into heavy soils, either hard pans, this kind of thing, roots get boxed up, and you can see they get gnarly and twisted. And you can see that in the vine above. You don't necessarily need to dig a pit to see that. It's just confirmed when you do. And then you're either say, well, that site's not a very good site, or we need to do something to improve the soils. But here, we're working with what would be considered a classic high-quality terroir. So that just leaves one thing, climate. If you've got a good climate, the rest is up to us.